and how we can see it through the eyes of bhakti. Today we're meeting with Chaitanya Charan, who is from India, and he's going to be discussing the link between science and spirituality, and particularly the angle of how science supports our external nature, our external environment, and how spirituality grows the internal environment. A little bit about him. He is a mentor and a monk and a speaker. He's the author of 25 books on applied mindfulness, which is really much the in thing right now, and purposeful living. He's been invited at TEDx, World Peace Conferences, Google, Microsoft, so all those big names, Salesforce, Stanton, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, MIT, and Cambridge. Okay, so we definitely have the best with us. He's given 400 talks across 100 cities in 4 continents every year. And he's the author of nearly 3,500 daily inspirational meditations on the Bhagavad Gita that are read by thousands all over the world. So we are very happy to finally have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu with us. Definitely when I want to know a subject and I want to know it in and out, I Google what he has to say about it. So we're very happy to have him at Bhakti Yoga Durban today. And I'll hand over to him now. Please remember to keep your microphones on mute and to share your questions in the chat group, and we'll field them as we go along. Okay, enjoy.
So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to be here with you today. I hope I'm audible and visible. And I'm sharing a screen. I'll be displaying a PowerPoint here. If it's not visible at any time, let me know. And I will do the needful. So is it clear? Thank you. So we are discussing about this topic of science and spirituality. And I'll start with a basic definition. Science is the study of matter. Spirituality is the study of what matters. I repeat, the study of matter, the study of how things are, how things work, the study of the interaction and the constitution and the manipulation of various material things. That is study of matter. Spirituality is the study of what matters. What is the most important thing in life? What is the second most important thing? What is the third most important thing? The various things that play a role in our life. Spirituality gives us that understanding. So the study of matter and the study of what matters. Now, we might say, doesn't science also tell us the study of what matters? Let's look at the possible interactions. It could be that the study of matter includes the study of what matters. So one is a subset of the other. It could be that the two of them overlap partially. Or it could be the study of what matters is bigger than the study of matter alone. Now, at one level, what does science study? Doesn't science itself study the things that matter to us? Say we have electricity, we have internet, we have telecom, we have air transport. All these things matter to us. So science does study and develop the things that matter, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And let's look at, before we come to the technological aspect of science, let's start with a historical understanding of how science began. Science prides itself on what is called as the objective method. That the scientific method, which one of its bedrocks is objectivity. That if scientist A observes something in England, and if scientist B observes something in South Africa, scientist C observes something in India, and they all will get the same results. So the idea is that by this, we can have repeatability of things, which is good. But for this purpose of having repeatability, science divided the world at its very start into what we call as primary qualities or primary properties and secondary properties. So because science wanted to be objective, so then it relegated all subjective parameters to the realm of secondary qualities. And the primary qualities are those which are primarily measured by science, those which science focuses on, or in fact, because science deals with them alone. So we could have length, velocity, density, mass, luminosity. So these parameters and the interactions between these parameters is what science finds, discovers, and develops. So E is equal to mc square, F is equal to g m1 m2 upon r square, laws of gravity or Einsteinian relativity. These are all interactions between these parameters. So these parameters are considered by science to be primary. Now, if we think about it, what are the secondary parameters that science does not focus on? So taste, smell, virtue, kindness, love. Now, these are subjective to some extent. Now, I may find some food very tasty and you may find that's okay. And I may find somebody to be very loving. Another person might say that person is so insensitive. There is a certain amount of subjectivity in these things. And because of that, it may these are what science chose not to study. So focus on the primary parameters. Now, what science considers primary. However, this leads to a significant problem. Now, what science considered secondary, those qualities are actually primary in our experience. So when we meet suppose we meet someone who's a very interesting person, and after meeting them, we say that, oh, we tell our friends, I met a very interesting person today. Okay, what was interesting? Now, if somebody says, oh, that person was 150 pounds. Okay. Now, if their weight is very less or very high, that might be a relevant parameter. But when we talk about people, we don't primarily talk about the measurable parameters. Say, now here we see a beautiful natural scenery. Now, if somebody says, oh, I went to a very beautiful scenic place. Okay, what was beautiful about it? Oh, there was a lake which was one mile big. Okay, and there was a grass which was 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter tall. Okay, when we want to describe the beauty of a natural place, we focus on not the measurable parameters. Measurable parameters are important, but they are not what is primary to our experience. In our experience, say when we eat food, we consider its texture, its taste. We are not so much primarily concerned with the measurable aspects of it. So let me give another example to illustrate this. So now study of what science considers primary is the parameters associated with matter that has led to great technological advancement. But parallel with that, what has happened is we have obsession with matter and negligence of everything else. We have got so caught in matter and the products of matter that is there anything beyond matter? So matter has become what matters to us with the advancement of technology. However, is matter all that matters? Now we try to reduce everything to measurable and mathematical equations. Now, if we consider the problem with this, let's consider pain. One aim of medical science is to free people from pain. Now, with all of our scientific advancement, all of our medical breakthroughs, we don't still have anything like a pain-o-meter. Now, we can't mathematically quantify pain. Why not? Because pain is experience. Now, of course, we could ask a person on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the degree of pain? And they might report, but that's quite subjective. The important thing is that we cannot give a mathematical measure. If somebody's got a fracture, we might say that, okay, your bone has become misaligned by this much degrees, or there's a crack in your bone of this much dimension. But that is not exactly in a one-to-one sense proportional to the pain that a person feels. So when we try to reduce everything to measurable and mathematical measures and mathematical equations, that leads to the elimination of a lot from life. So one thing is, equations cannot capture emotions. Equations deal with mathematical correlations between the parameter that science considers as primary properties, but emotions would fall within what science considers secondary properties. How I often do seminars on facing our fears. I was last year in Columbus, Ohio. They were speaking in the Ohio State University about dealing with fear. So, what were the top 10 fears of people, say, in the 19th century, in the 20th century, in the 21st century? So, we found that in the 21st century, two new fears have been added. One of them is the fear of terrorists, and the other is the fear of rejection. Fear of rejection. We form a relationship with someone and we are constantly in fear, will this person just abandon me and leave? So now when we want to form a relationship with someone, we would really like to know whether this person actually cares for me or not. So suppose, say, a boy proposes to a girl, I love you, will you marry me? Now can the girl take out, okay, here I got a love-o-meter, let me put this love-o-meter on your heart and see, do you really love me? If the love-o-meter gives a high rating, okay, you love me, I'll accept your proposal. Hey, this gives a low rating, I won't accept your proposal. No, we can't quantify emotions like love with any mathematical metric. There is no measuring system for that. And yet, if we consider in our own experience, you know, love is something which we all long for. We all long to be loved, to love and be loved. Similarly, we all want to avoid pain. But so these are all important parts of our life. So these are what matter to us, but they are not mathematically measurable. The study of matter and the study of what matters. So what we are discussing by this is that these two circles, the study of matter and the study of what matters, there is a lot that doesn't overlap. There is a lot that is different among the two. So let's look at this a little further. Now, when if our mother loves us, then is the mother's love just another surge of neural activity? Is it just a transmission of some biochemicals, of some electrochemical pulses in the brain? Well, they are a physical. They physically accompany any emotion that we experience, but the love is not reducible to that. Could if a mother has two babies, could you have a love-o-meter say, oh, you love this baby more, you love this baby less? No, we can't do that. Now, science has studied the brain significantly, and we have understood a lot about how certain areas of the brain are associated with certain functions, and that's why if particular areas of the brain are damaged, particular kinds of functioning can be impeded. But still, that is correlation, not causation. Correlation means A and B occur together. That does not mean A causes B. So a simple example to illustrate this. Social researchers on the study of language, specifically say English language, they have found that people with bigger hands have bigger vocabularies. What? People with bigger hands? What have bigger hands got to do with bigger vocabularies? You might wonder. So actually what it means is people who have bigger hands are older. People who have smaller hands are small children. And as people grow older, their vocabulary increases. So people with bigger hands have bigger vocabularies. That is true, but there is no causal connection between the two. It is correlation. There is a causation means the bigger hands cause bigger vocabulary. No, correlation means that there is a connection, but there is no causal connection. It is that as people grow older, their hands grow bigger and their vocabularies also grow bigger. If we consider baby's vocabulary, baby has a smaller hands and adult has bigger hands. So the point is that brain activity and emotions, there is a correlation between them. It's not causation. So we can, through science and technology, change the things that things make improvements in matter, but there is much that matters to us which is beyond the domain of science. Say now we have this great big corona crisis all over the world, and researchers are desperately searching for a vaccine, and we offer our prayers and good wishes that they develop a vaccine, an effective vaccine, as soon as possible. At the same time, the significant amount of the problems amidst this pandemic are caused on one side by greed of people, wherein some people, there's a person in Cincinnati in America who hoarded like several thousands of sanitizers and several thousands of masks, and people around him were in great risk of losing their lives, and this person was thinking, let me earn more money. So that's greed can aggravate problems enormously. Yet, do we have anything like a greed vaccine? A greed vaccine is something which is beyond us. So it's greed is real, but it's not something which can be curable by a vaccination. There are things that matter which do not fall in the world of matter, and spirituality is the study of those things. Now, if we reduce all of reality to matter, then another problem that comes up is, if matter is all that exists and matter is all that matters, then do we have free will? What is the relation between the two? Now I have this phone with me. Now if I drop this phone, I'll catch it when I drop it. But when I drop this phone automatically falls. This phone just falls automatically. It does not have any free will whether to choose to fall or not. Einstein is attributed to have said that gravity can explain the falling of objects, but it can't explain people's falling in love. It can't explain people's falling in love. So if say there are two people, person A and person B, if person A goes to B and slaps them on the face, hey, why did you slap me? Okay, my neurochemicals told me to slap you. Then I'll say the second person will slap the person, my neurochemicals told me to slap you. We don't live as if we are simply products of our neural programming. We all have, matter operates under mechanical laws, but do we behave like matter? Suppose we are walking along a road and there is a person who's lying on the ground. Would we just walk over them and say, oh, this is the shortest path for me, I don't care if it causes pain to you, I want to get there and this is the shortest path, excuse my mass and density? No, if somebody did like that, we'd say, why did you do like this? So all systems of all relationships and our system of justice, they all operate under the principle that we are conscious beings that can choose to live responsibly, that have free will. Responsibly means responsibility is responsibility, the ability to choose our response. That is foundational to any system of justice, any system of any relationship that we have. So we all function as if we have free will, and yet within the world of science there is no room for free will. Within the role of science there is no room for responsibility. In fact, Einstein was very troubled by the implications of a scientific worldview, not scientific, scientific. There is science is a method for acquiring knowledge, whereas scientism is an ideology. Scientism is an ideology, and this ideology holds that science alone is the source of all knowledge. That anything that is not known through science is not worth knowing. So the humanities, the arts, uh, everything is reduced to science. So now Einstein said that if we accepted, I'm paraphrasing, if we accept a scientific worldview, then the result of that will be that people have no free will. And the Nazis who killed millions of Jews become no more than biological robots who were programmed to act the way they did. So were they not responsible? Nobody could be held responsible for any actions if matter were all that exists. So the study of matter and the study of what matters, there is a significant area of non-intersection among the two. So to summarize this, the world of matter is not the world that primarily matters to us. What matters to us are our values, our purposes. So there's much more that matters to us than simply the world of matter. This could be summarized in three ways. It's if we look at the world now. Suppose you come into a room. Now, of course, this is a virtual classroom, but suppose you came to a physical classroom. Now, when you came to the classroom, if somebody asks you, okay, how many fans are there in this room, or how much is the size of the window, or what do you think is the tensile strength of the walls, or what is the thickness of the fan of the bar that is holding the fan, hey, that's not what is of primary relevance for us. Now, all these are valid matters of observation, but when we come to a classroom, now what do we focus on? Okay, what is my purpose coming here? Okay, if I'm coming to a classroom, my purpose is I want to study. I want to hear the class. So then if I want to hear the class, then I look around in the classroom, what are the resources? Okay, that is in the first row. In the first row, I can see and hear clearly, and there'll be less distractions. So you will sit there. That's the resources that I have. Then obstacles. Okay, but that seat is empty, but the person next to that, person sitting next, that person is very noisy. Keeps whispering, keeps gossiping, keeps dropping things, and keeps making all kinds of noises. So I don't want to sit there. So basically, when we look at the world, we are not interested simply in the objective world. We are interested in the objective world in a way that in what way it serves our purpose. So purpose, resources, and obstacles. What do I want to do? What will help me do it? And what will obstruct me in doing it? Where do I want to go? What will help me get along the way? What will get in my way? This is, broadly speaking, we can say this is what matters to us. So what do I want? And now with respect to this understanding, what matters? Now, science itself does not tell us what should be our purpose in life. Once the purpose has been decided, we can have some resources, there might be some obstacles. So for example, now if I'm in India right now, and I was supposed to be in a world tour, but I had to cut it down because of the corona crisis. So I was in New Zealand, and my purpose is to come back to India when the crisis erupted. So then the resources, okay, there's a flight, I could take it, and this flight was available, that flight was available. But this flight, it passes through this part of the world, and anybody who goes to that part of the world, they might be quarantined. Okay, then I won't go there. So once we decide a purpose, science can provide us the appropriate resources. Science can also tell us what the obstacles are. But what is the purpose? What is the purpose that we should live for? That is something which science itself doesn't say. Einstein, to quote Einstein again, he said that we can talk about the ethical foundations of science, but we can't talk about the scientific foundation of ethics, the ethical foundations of science. Is science being used ethically or not? But the scientific foundations of ethics. What that means that scientists at the individual level might be very ethical, but science itself is not intrinsically moral. Of course, science is not immoral also. Science is technically what is called as amoral. Amoral means that morality is not a subject within science. By morality, we're not referring to religious moralizing that might be done for some people. The morality is something which underlies various walks of our life. Say, for example, if a person is sick, then should we continue the treatment, or should we, and there is not much hope of recovery, should we continue the treatment, should we not continue the treatment? And that is something which, who decides that? So now in many of the countries in the world have enough weapons, have weapons of mass destruction. So now we know, as the corona crisis is spreading, that how dangerous bioweapons could be. The present crisis is quite possibly, it's not most likely not a bioweapon released by any country, but it could be a what was supposed to be a bioweapon got wrong. And even if it is not, if it's entirely natural and it is spread across the world, but still, if we had a pandemic which was started as a bioweapon by a particular bad actor, then we understand how devastating that could be. So science can help us develop bioweapons, but should they be used or should they not be used? That is something which science itself can't tell us. So Martin Luther King put this very beautifully. He said that our scientific power or our technological power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. We have guided missiles and misguided men. So what we, through science and technology, have got enormous power over the outer world. Just by pressing a few buttons, people can, all of us today can summon information from any part of the world, but some heads of state, by pressing a few buttons, can destroy a whole country. So we have enormous outer power. But what about inner power? What about the values and purposes that will guide us in exercising that outer power? Carl Jung famously said that the more outer power we have, the more inner power we need. And science can provide us more and more outer power. But science can't provide us inner power. Why not? Because the things that matter in the inner world, they are all beyond mathematical measurement. You know, say greed, anger, jealousy, selfishness, or on a positive side, selflessness, virtue, kindness, charity. No, you cannot have a charity meter to decide how charitable a person is. But the human condition and human society is shaped as much by the inner values and purposes that drive us than the outer resources and outer obstacles that come in our that we face in the outer world. So science is very powerful for us as a resource, but what about the inner world? That is where spirituality plays a vital role. And now, what is spirituality? The Gita explains that there is 3-level reality. So now what is happening over here, that I put it as same three things in different ways. There is matter, there's mind, and there's consciousness. So in the what is put in the left is the materialistic worldview, which is quite intrinsically associated with scientific development, that matter is what primarily matters. There could be fanatical materialists who say matter is all that matters. There are functional materialists who say, sorry, fanatical materialists say that matter is all that exists. There's nothing beyond it. But there are functional materialists who say maybe there's something more, but matter is all that matters. So maybe mind, consciousness, all these things, they don't really matter much. However, the Gita's vision of reality is consciousness is what matters first. Mind is what matters next. Matter is what matters as tertiary. Consciousness is primary, mind is secondary, matter is tertiary. What do we mean by consciousness and mind? So this will be the last part of my talk, and then we will have some question answers. Basically, this three-level vision of reality could be equated with a computer system. In a computer, there's the hardware, software, and user. So the hardware is matter. That's our physical level, the body. The software is the mind. And the user is the conscious being, is who we actually are, consciousness. So matter is the hardware, mind is the software, and consciousness is the user. So let's quickly do a simple thought experiment to illustrate what I'm saying over here. And now, before we do the thought experiment, a quick explanation that matter is the physical body and the physical world. Now, from the physical world, various sensory inputs come in. So, for example, you're seeing with your eyes now, hearing with your ears. So, these inputs are coming in, and when those inputs come in, they stream in, and then they are integrated on the mind. So, the mind, like we have a computer screen which might be taking in inputs. Suppose you have somebody is in charge of security of a high security building, and that building has several doors. So each of the doors has a camera over there, and the inputs on the camera come on this screen, and then the security in charge who observes and responds. So the screen is like the mind. The mind integrates the inputs from the various senses and then presents them for consciousness to respond to. So to get a sense of this, let's quickly do a thought experiment. So wherever you are, you can try to sit comfortably as possible and close your eyes. Now with your eyes closed, please take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Now with your eyes closed, look ahead in front of you. Because your eyes are closed, you can't see anything specific. You may not be able to see what is physically in front of you, but still you see something like a screen inside you on which you might see your home, your phone, a loud one, maybe some image that you might have seen recently, or you might see various objects coming and going on that screen, or you might just see a dull haze of colors. But whatever it is that you see it on some kind of screen inside you. Now, while you're observing that screen, try to take a step backwards and try to catch sight of who is it that is observing the screen. I repeat, while observing the screen inside you, the inner screen, try to take a step back and catch sight of who is it that is observing that screen. Try to catch sight of the inner seer. No matter how many steps you take backward, that inner seer steps back with you. What you are looking for is what you are looking with. So that inner seer is you, the consciousness, or the soul that is the source of consciousness. And that inner screen is your mind. So take one deep breath and then you can open your eyes. Thank you. So I repeat, there is the inner seer, which is the conscious being. The inner screen is the mind, and the outer seer is the physical reality. So now, going back to the computer system, science has enabled us to improve the hardware in a phenomenal way. But the software, at the level of the mind, there is incredible amount of distress. And one tragic indicator of how our progress has become so terribly imbalanced is that there are 1 million people who commit suicide every year. Now, 1 million is one suicide every 40 seconds. That means since we started this talk, about 70 people have already committed suicide. And most people who commit suicide it's not because they are in such state of such physical deprivation. Some people commit suicide because they are starving, but that's not many. Most people commit suicide because their mind is filled with negativity, dejection, hopelessness. So these are like viruses that corrupt our mind. I have worked with suicide counselors, I have worked with suicide survivors, and quite often when people are on the verge of suicide, it's because they don't have anything worthwhile to live for. It's that they don't find any deep or inspiring meaning or purpose in their lives. And that science unfortunately can't provide it to us. In fact, the scientific worldview, if it is extended and scientism is accepted, then life has no eventual meaning, no ultimate meaning. We just live, and we are sometimes hit by a bang, say a car hits us, or we are hit by a bug, some germ enters into it, and that's over. So the spiritual worldview tells us that we are spiritual beings, and life has a far bigger purpose. We are on a multi-life journey of spiritual evolution, and each life and each incident in our life can be a means by which we evolve spiritually, by which we grow onward. And when we understand this spiritual understanding coupled with practices for inner purification, spirituality offers us practices like meditation, mantra chanting, study of wisdom texts, and all these can help us to free our mind from our inner viruses. So when our mind is contaminated by viruses, we get confused about what really matters to us. For an alcoholic, because the alcoholism as a conditioning is so strong in their minds, so they think that drinking that alcohol is more important than maybe their reputation, their responsibilities, their relationships, their health, their wealth, maybe even their life. So there is a skewing, a massive distortion or perversion of value that happens. But spirituality cleanses us from within, it purifies us, and it helps us to understand what really matters. Most of our fears are because we are excessively attached to things, but is there something more important than things? So spirituality can act as a vital balancer in our life. The balancer means that our inner world, where our priorities, our values, our purposes are decided, if that is cleansed, then we will be able to function meaningfully, function uh, joyfully in life. We'll be able to choose better. So the mind is like a software, and spirituality can help us remove the viruses of selfishness, arrogance, craving, and thus it adds meaning and value to our life. Now, selfishness, arrogance, craving, if we see it in another person, we can definitely understand that they are not very desirable qualities. But there is, how do we remove it from them or from us? So spirituality offers us resources for that. The Bhakti Yoga tradition says that we are finite consciousness, there's an infinite consciousness. So, and there's a link between the two. That link based on love, if it is established, then the purity of the infinite streams into our heart and removes the impurity from there. So Bhakti Yoga is like the ultimate exam, which can remove the viruses from the software of our mind and grant us inner purity, inner power. The study of matter improves our capacity to control our outer world, but study of what matter helps us to make better choices. It brings value to our life. It makes us better human beings. If we could decrease the greed within us, if we could decrease the uh, self-centeredness within us, if could decrease the impulsiveness within us, we all could become better human beings. We all can make better contributions in life. And thus, to summarize, science makes things better, spirituality makes people better. Science helps us improve the outer world, spirituality helps us improve the inner world. And when we bring science and spirituality together, we all can become agents for playing our part in making a better and brighter world and taking us to a better and brighter place in our own spiritual journeys. So I'll summarize. I spoke today on the relationship between science and spirituality. I started by science is the study of matter, spirituality is the study of what matters. And then I explained why science is the study of matter, because science at its very start in the 16th, 17th centuries decided to divide the observed world into two sets of parameters, primary and secondary. The primary are those which are measurable and quantifiable, secondary are those which are not. But we discussed how in our day-to-day lives, the secondary parameters that are primarily significant for us. Therefore, the world of science and the world that we live in, there is a significant disconnect between the two. We discussed, say, medical science itself cannot measure pain, although its purpose is to remove pain. It can't quantify pain. We can't have a lovometer to decide whether someone loves her or not. So the intangibles also matter. Now, if science were simply giving the study of matter, that would be fine. But what has happened is, because science has given us so much outer technological power, we have become obsessed with matter and the ways to control matter. And we have started neglecting our inner world, and we have started neglecting systematically developing our own understanding, our own purpose, or choosing our own choosing the right values, and then that has become neglected. So what is the result of that? We have guided missiles and misguided men. And there is, if we take the rigidly the scientific word, not science but scientistic, that means scientism, it says science alone is the source of all valid knowledge. A scientistic worldview to its culmination, the result would be that the Nazis wouldn't be responsible for the Holocaust, and nobody has any free will. We are just biological robots. Nobody functions like that. Our system of justice can't function like that. Our relationships can't function like that. So we need, when we look at the world, what is it that matters to us? We discussed, we don't look at just objectively what the matter is made up of. We look at it from the perspective of pro. What is my purpose? What are the resources that will help me to fulfill that purpose? And what are the obstacles on my way to my purpose? But how do I decide what is my purpose? For science itself is neither moral nor immoral, it is amoral. So we discussed the Gita's vision of reality. There is matter, mind, and consciousness. And did a thought experiment about how inner screen and inner seer. So our screen right now has been contaminated by many impurities, arrogance, selfishness, greed, and these are like viruses. And the evidence that these viruses are rampant is that mental health problems are alarmingly escalating in today's world. One tragic figure is that 1 million people commit suicide in today's world. That's far more than any time in human history. And we immediately and urgently need a balancing in our lives where we learn to gain better mastery, better understanding, and better mastery of our inner world, not just our outer world. And that is where spirituality can provide us resources. Bhakti yoga helps us finite consciousness connect with the infinite consciousness, and thereby cleanses our heart, our inner world of impurities. And thus we all can become better human beings and make better contributions to the world. Science makes things better, spirituality makes people better. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So there are some questions here.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yes, I will just Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for that very robust discussion, between the links in science and understanding how those principles come together. You explained that so nicely. We have a list of questions, and I'm going to just fill them for you. Some have come privately, and some are here. You also have some here. Some are privately, and some are there.
Okay. So you want to select them, or should I select them? How do we go ahead?
I'll just read them and you can answer.
Okay.
From Sky Chapman, who's one of our students in Tux in Pretoria, she had a question. She said, I personally struggle sometimes to differentiate between my mind, where my thoughts seem to happen, and my consciousness. If we want to listen more to our consciousness, our natural self or soul, what do you think are good ways to focus more or practice that?
That's an excellent question. So now I'd like to speak about three things. So how do we differentiate between our natural self and our consciousness?
We seem to have lost some sound. If you can hear me speaking, just send a message. Okay, so Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, maybe it's muted on your side. We interrupt this broadcast for some technical difficulties. We're currently working on it. I can hear him. I don't know how we can hear him. Hare Krishna.
and the Bhagavad Gita when you read your Gita.
Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Am
Can you hear us clearly, Prabhu?
I audible? Yeah, now I can hear you. Can you hear? Yes. So it seems somehow the net went down. So I have come on my hotspot now using my. You know? Okay. So an act of higher self. Basically,
Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, I'm struggling to hear you. I'm not sure if everyone else is having the same experience. Okay.
unfortunate.
Mm.
Am I audible
Yes.
now?
We hear you for a
Just
few
complete
seconds.
the answer.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
well.
So we use the word thought in two different senses. Say, for example, I just got a thought and I have given this a lot of thought. So now, say I just got a thought. What that means is the thought popped up within me. Whereas I have given this a lot of thought means I have thought, I have given sustained attention, done some evaluation of this. So we could get when thoughts pop up within us, they are what are coming from our mind. Just like you are working on a computer, some pop-up window comes up. Your friend loaded their, dated their Facebook photo. Oh, maybe I should see it. Oh, maybe I don't need.
Just get your audio. Okay, guys, so this looks like it's unfortunate. What we could do is schedule to see if Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has some other time available to answer these questions, or else he can give some written responses and we can post it on the group. We are out of time, I think, as far as I see. Thank you. The questions were amazing. So we'll either schedule a session just for questions, or we will get Chaitanya Charan Prabhu to post them and we'll share them on the WhatsApp group. Remember to catch us at 3 o'clock this afternoon with Sri Radha Govinda Dasi on astrology and you. It's going to be a really interesting session. Yeah, we will catch you there. There's lots more coming up on the retreat. And, share it with your friends, especially if you know people that are just getting their feet into bhakti. And we do understand the registration process has been a little bit slow, and we apologize about that. We're trying our best. And we'll like to see you there. Bye-bye. In the Temple of Understanding.